For those of you who know my guest today, Mr. Emeka Izeze, you know him as the one-time managing director of The Guardian Nigeria, but today he sits as the chairman of the National Media Complaints Commission, which many have come to call the National Media Ombudsman. He joins us today to discuss what exactly is the mission for this ombudsman and how it will change the media landscape for the country. Welcome, sir. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So let's talk about the ombudsman. Why exactly it came, the story behind it being put together. Why was it important?
I didn't put it together, but some people put it together because they thought that there was something there for all of us in the industry. The Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, a Guild of Editors, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, and I think NUJ have always had these issues with how do we self-regulate. The media does well and better when it is not being regulated by the government. Put simply, when it's not being regulated from the outside. Once the media begins to be regulated forcefully from outside, what you get is a kind of noise and the kind of tension that we saw recently when Channels Television was fined 5 million naira for some program that it ran. But we can do a better job regulating ourselves. And when you do that, you raise professionalism and you also help the system, our system, democratic system. Our country is the best for it. I mean, people should know what they are there for. I think that's essentially the reason for thinking towards this National Media Complaints Commission, the Ombudsman, that, as you said. And I think we accepted to do it because we believe that it is something worth doing.
What will this regulation look like? How exactly does the media intend to regulate itself?
Many people misunderstand regulation, and that includes people in government. Look, I was involved in the drafting of the decree that became it became a decree signed by the military. I was Secretary General of the Guild of Editors then, and a few of us got together. Who were brought together by the same people who engineered this commission, and said, look, the new military leader, President Babangida, had come and said the previous administration made a decree and the decree was rejected by the media. I mean, even thinking of it now, it's surreal because this was a very tough military regime, incidentally headed by the man who is president today, President Buhari. And they had jailed 2 journalists for publishing truth, but for refusing to reveal their sources. So, and they had 2 laws then, Decree 2 and Decree 4. Decree 2 says that even the truth is not a defense. It's on that score that journalists went to jail. But at that time, they brought this press council decree. And we had one of our best as information minister, the late Prince Tony Momo then. And they brought this decree and the media rejected it. And they couldn't do anything because the alternative is to shut down the entire media in Nigeria or jail everybody. You couldn't do that. So government changed. And Babangida came and Professor Onyonware came as information minister. And the first thing Babangida did was MKO Abiola was president of Newspaper Proprietors Association then, and called MKO, we can do this. You go and look at this decree, tell us what you want us to put there or to do with it. And we want it to be done because the media needs that assistance from us and we need the assistance from the media. I'm talking of why regulation, many people tend to misunderstand it. So we did the MPAN gave a small committee. I was involved as Secretary General of the Guild of Editors. The assignment to go draft this decree, and then we drafted it in MKO Abiola's bedroom, And they were all down there waiting for, we're talking of something that ran for hours and hours and hours. When we brought it back, MKO read it to all the major publishers. Uncle Sam Amuka, who is the oldest now, was always there. And Alex Hebrew, the whole lot of them were sitting down there. They didn't go. When MKO read it to them, after reading it, he said, I'm not a journalist, I'm a businessman, but you people who drafted this thing are journalists. Are you sure you can implement this law yourself? Because it's good you have a genial president now, Babangida. If you had a bad president, will you be able to survive with this law? So we were pleasantly surprised. We went back to his bedroom again. He said, use my bedroom. And then we now brought out a clean copy. He took it to President Babangida and they promulgated it into the Media Council decree, word for word, not a single word removed. What we did there was to see how the media can be held accountable differently, how we can become more professional in our practices. We didn't need anybody to jail journalists before we can become more professional. Journalists are already being jailed for libel. There's a libel law. The criminal code is full of all kinds of provisions for jailing anybody who misbehaves. What we needed was to improve the professionalism in the media in the interest of the country. And well, it looks like the people who came after that didn't like it very much. So they tried so much to change that decree. In the end, they made the press council become almost like unnecessary. It shouldn't be. Press council ought to be doing some of the things we're talking about now that the Media Complaints Commission should be doing, but they couldn't serve that purpose because it's government. So we are back here, and again, the same people who own the media believe that media is better regulated, not by threats, not by imprisonment, not by jailing, not by shutdown of media houses. They don't shut down media houses anymore. But in the old days under the military, media houses were shut down. My newspaper, in my lifetime in that organization, we were shut down like 3 times. On one occasion, we were shut down for a whole year. 1 whole year. The newspaper was shut down. Others were shut down similarly. And some of them never recovered because you shut down an organization that is not strong. After 1 year, it's dead. So how best do we then regulate the media? When professionals are the ones, people have complaints, that's one aspect. That's the part that people know. People have complaints, they bring it. And then we can look at the complaints. But there is also the other aspect of speaking truth to ourselves, of pointing out things to ourselves that nobody has complained about, but we have observed. So there are just too many ways, and maybe they won't be able to say that we don't know what we're talking about, yeah? So they will listen.
So Mr. Izeze, I guess for me, this is the point really. When we look within ourselves as the media, what is that one yardstick that you think everyone would be able to agree on to say that these are the standards we're holding ourselves to, and as such, if a complaint comes, by these standards, we can address this complaint?
You've asked this question because many of our colleagues are not aware that we have professional guidelines and professional principles. We have code of ethics. We have canons governing practice of journalism all over the world. And we have borrowed from those canons. In fact, we have adopted those canons as part of ours. And then we have also drafted our own. When I say we, I mean the press. Long before we came into it, those things were existing. What has happened is that many people coming into the media are completely oblivious of those rules. By the way, when I was doing my master's the program, I decided to write on something that is unusual, the professional and ethical practice of Nigerian journalists. And the guys doing in England, they thought that they searched everywhere. They couldn't find anyone who had done that on Nigerian journalism. But we have to do it So it's like a pet idea for us that we don't need anybody to regulate us. Let's go back to basics. Every journalism school teaches all these things that I'm talking about. What happens? I hope they're still teaching. I hope
Yes,
so.
they are. They are.
If they're teaching people ethics, they're teaching people the professional practices, what you should and shouldn't do as a professional. I don't know why it is impossible for people to come out and practice it. The other issue is that media organizations also have character. There are things that you will never see people in certain organizations do. They're not going to dress rough when they go out for assignment. They dress in a self-respecting way, not provocative. When you are interviewing people, part of the rules we were given in those days is don't dress to kill, because you become a distraction and the guy won't concentrate on this. But you see sometimes people on television doing interviews and the women are more distracting than they're asking questions. Some of them are professional and they ask good questions, but they distract. Even interviews, if we were taught all of this in school, why can't we practice it? What has happened in the place that I worked, in the Guardian, we had all of that published
Right.
in a book form. We have our house style, and the early pages of the house style includes all this code of conduct, canon of ethics, and all that. And then we put all the do's and don'ts of our own, peculiar to us. We say that you're not supposed to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
If we catch you doing that, you're gone. In fact, at some point, we got some of the staff to say, we don't want you to belong to any journalism association. So we asked all the staff to write a letter of resignation from those associations. And they brought it and put it in their files. And we said, the day we catch any one of you functioning as a member of that association, you're out of here. We didn't stomach it at all because we needed to be more professional. You can belong to NUJ, that's okay. And editors, you can belong to NGA, that's fine. And it used to be very nice to have members in, say, sports reporting, but then the financial people came, the energy people came, the airport people that used to be very good. It became an opportunity for people to attempt to control the media by arranging things for them so that even when you are not in that place, your colleagues will send the money to you in your newsroom.
Right.
I mean, they just destroy the newspaper, the industry.
So it's interesting to hear the scope of some of the things you will cover, from things that seem mundane to people like dressing, but clearly they're sensitive enough, right? So they do have an impact. But I'm curious as to the powers that the Ombudsman has to be able to hold these houses accountable, media houses in this case.
Even members of the commission have been raising those questions. But the fact is that this is supposed to be, the enforcement is supposed to be based on entirely, first is good faith, moral suasion. We're not going to jail anybody. When all of that fails, we then might have to publish a book of infamy or a register of infamy of people, and it will be published. If you don't publish it in your own media, others will publish it because that's part of what has to be done. When your name is always featuring in those things so regularly, somebody will tell you that you are going to destroy this organization. If every time they will publish that you are one of those creating issues and we have tried to get you to change it and you're recalcitrant and you're not interested, but it's not good for the industry, and we think that it should be changed. It's not taking you to court. It's not taking you to be jailed. No. We believe that if you break any other law that already exists in the statute books, it should be taken to court by the offended people if they want. But for us as professionals, we think that when we bring our moral weight to bear on what is being done that is good, not only what is bad. When we also see good things happening, we should be able to trump them in such a way that people will have examples to follow. So,
well, Mr. Izeze, you say this, and I can't help but think about the times we're in right now. Even when you were recounting the moment in MK Abiola's bedroom, right?
yeah,
I'm thinking that in that time, the military was essentially perceived as the enemy of the people, and the media was the champion of the people, right? But today, the media is one of the least trusted institutions, not just in Nigeria, but in many parts of the world. Part of that has to do with online media. It's a new dynamic. And with online media, we have seen publications getting called out repetitively for unsavory and unprofessional things. It hasn't stopped them from essentially putting out their news or their agenda.
no, true. Again, you have to sift the wheat from the chaff. Most times, you have to be determined to make this to be very deliberate in how you characterize the entire media. The fear everybody has today is online media, but that fear was there. Newspapers have always existed for so many years. When radio came, everybody was afraid. Radio is the enemy of everybody, because radio is going to be able to spread information fast, and it will get to people, and usually the only investment they have is to buy a radio set, or even have one, as it used to be in parts of this country, radio fusion. Just go there, the same people broadcasting are the same people selling radio fusion. They put it in the sitting room, and it's talking 24 hours unless you switch it off. And you don't need to worry about it. Put the thing is there. So radio didn't kill anything. Radio didn't cause so much problem. Then television came, and it was the same fear, the same anxiety. Now it is online publications. Online publications are coming at a time when, just as we were discussing before, you find that the media is consolidating in a way that was unexpected in the past. Lately, you have had, now you can do radio, you can do television, you can do online publication, you can even decide to publish a magazine or a newspaper on the side.
Right.
So everything is going on. Why the online media? Simply because the bulk of the people who started out thinking that online media is for everybody were not, in my view, people who were too conversant both with the way the online media should function and with the way the real media operates. A media organization is a media organization is a media organization. You have to be, there are certain lowest common denominators that must exist for it to be called a media organization. If you are going to do a story, you don't say that you're an online media and so somebody just says something on the bar, or you, by the roadside, you pick it and you write a story on it. If you do that 2 times, 3 times, nobody is going to take you seriously. And when people are not taking you seriously, already is bad enough that you are looking for income. People don't take you seriously. Nobody will bring any advertising to you. Nobody will subscribe to you. Where they ought to be paying attention to only few, and those few seem to be doing okay, is we want to have subscribers who will stay. Subscribers who will come and trust us enough to return day in, day out, and they will always stay with us, stay beyond just looking at headlines, stay to read, not just spending minutes. Some of them can spend an hour or 2 with us in the whole day, because some of them will come back in the morning and go and come back again. But that's for online media. If you therefore are doing what will attract trust, there will be subscription. So the subscription is simply that people are coming to read. And when people are reading, the more people that read you, the more money that you'll be attracting.
And yet I'm tempted to raise the matter of how binaries have taken a hold of our public conversations. If it's not A, it must be Z. And we have seen a continuous flowing of attention, a continuous people hold on to those publications essentially, time and again, even when they know it's not true. But I do want to ask about who can lay complaints with this ombudsman, and I'll do that in just a moment. My guest here on Radio Now 95.3 FM is Mr. Emeka Izeze. He happens to be the chairman of the National Media Complaints Commission, newly inaugurated, newly minted, and promising to change the landscape of media in the country. Welcome back. You're still watching Radio Now 95.3 FM. My name is Nabila Usman, and my guest today is Emeka Izeze. Most of you know him as a one-time managing director of The Guardian Nigeria. Today, he's the chairman of the National Media Complaints Commission, and we are in a conversation about how this particular ombudsman will change the landscape of media in the country. Now, Mr. Izeze, let's talk about who can lay a complaint, right? I don't want to limit it, so let's just ask that question plainly. Who can come to you with a complaint?
Well, there are many people who feel injured by the media, who feel that the media a media house, I don't think it's the entire media, a media house has treated them badly, has not been fair to them, or has misrepresented them. And sometimes they try to get redress from the media houses and it doesn't work. Or people simply refuse to do, because, I mean, this job also comes with a huge ego, and pride plays a very big part in the job that we do. So they will say, we've tried, we feel that these people must make amends, and they refuse to do it, then you seek recourse to us. But the people can decide also to say, we don't have to go to the media houses directly. We're going to this commission. When they come, we will still revert to the media houses, because that's where everything really is domiciled.
So these are the consumers or the customers or listeners of this media house?
Consumers, customers, whether from the business side or from the audience side, readers, listeners, audience of television, consumers of online publications, and whoever even feel, including the government. So instead of just going about accusing everybody of committing treason, you show up and complain lay your complaint.
Can one media house lay a complaint against another?
Absolutely. If there is something you have seen, it doesn't happen often. And we don't normally complain against ourselves, because rarely do you see media houses attacking other media houses. Even in this political season, I'm sure it would have interested in a lot of people to see that all through this period, you never had one media house running down another.
Right. It tends to be a practice of sorts.
It's a practice, but more than that, it's also, maybe we'll have to do some of that quarreling within ourselves. It will help, because we cannot actually become so uniform in our operations and activities, so self-respecting of ourselves and indulging those who are getting involved in all kinds of excesses, and said, no, we don't want to ruffle their feathers, they are our friends. No, but that could happen. I see that if ever it will happen, it will be rare. What the audience, the general public, that includes government, business, individuals, the little man and the little woman, and people who feel that we were badly treated by this media. It could be a small story, it could be a big story, it could be an interview. I was misquoted, they edited everything out, and then they put the one they want to serve a certain purpose, and I called them, this is the wrong thing, correct it, and they refused. So I'm seeking
redress
from you. And then you said, okay, we'll still go back to those people. So why don't you answer the questions that the people are bringing, because we'll still ask those questions of you.
So this raises two things for me. The first is, essentially, it seems like you are something of a court of first instance, right? And I'm wondering if you are not backed by a legislation I wonder, what would compel, for instance, the government to decide that they want to come to the Ombudsman first?
It is the same issue that we raised earlier on. The government doesn't believe that, some people in government do not believe that the best way to regulate the press is to allow this sort of activity to become established, because you might well be taking, or so they think, taking the jobs of some of them in government. And when you don't have time to be complaining about the media every day, and we're telling you go and complain there, then it doesn't work. Anybody can, and anybody should when you are wronged. Those who commit clear offense against the law, we can't stop the offended people from taking them to court. But if the offended people decide to come to us, you just use that term, the court of first instance, and said, we don't want to go to court. We like some people who are there. We have known them for a long time, but what they have done here is so damaging to us that we think they should correct it. If they refuse to correct it, we'll go to court. And if you don't give us the kind of response that we're expecting from you, we need fairness. We need to be treated fairly. We need these people to admit, or for someone to tell them that they did something wrong to us. It may even be just a matter of misunderstanding. And either way, people should be free to complain about the way we operate. Media houses in the old days used to have their own ombudsman. I had somebody who was our ombudsman, but I know that it didn't quite function very well. It doesn't normally function well when it's in-house. Everybody knows everyone else. And it's the same, but we should be able to admit when we do things wrong. We have in the newspaper then, from day one of the newspaper, page 2 there was a small space on page 2 where we wrote our error or correction. And it has to be the next. People are complaining. Once people complain, sometimes we'll get their names wrong.
Right.
Sometimes we'll get their designations wrong. Sometimes we'll get the facts wrong. We immediately, once they complain or we get to know that this is wrong, we don't wait for complaint. We correct it ourselves.
So I hear you. And for me, I still find it a bit difficult to see why the government would decide they would want to come to the Ombudsman first. But it does take me to the second question, which is, besides just the government versus this is us setting it up factor, I wonder how different the Ombudsman would be from, for instance, for broadcasting, the NBC is there. And within the code provides for an aggrieved party, a listener. Oh, you can come and speak to the media house and say, oh, you gave this person 5 minutes to speak against me. I want an equal 5 minutes to defend myself, put it that way.
Yeah.
So what would be the difference between, say, an NBC, the National Broadcasting Commission, and the Ombudsman in this case?
The Broadcasting Commission is a regulator. We are not regulating the media. Far from it. I mean, that would be the last thing people like us will want to do, to regulate the media at this point. After spending all our life doing this thing, it's just to do it better. Government can decide that we want to fight the media. That's up to them to decide. But a government that thinks we should ensure that the right thing is done in the country could avail itself of this. It will set a certain standard that this is the way. This government did not go fighting this media house or this editor or this publisher or this chief of the broadcasting house, no, or this online publisher, online editor, no. They decided to complain in a very civilized manner. What we think should come out of this is that everybody, both those who are injured and those who are operating in the media, should become more civilized about dealing with each other. And then be able to say, yes, we made a mistake. It's a human operation. Every human operation is bound to throw up mistakes now and then and again. And So if that happens, the government, why shouldn't they come? Government should come because it solves a lot of problem for them. You don't, it, government clown, look at the bad press that they got, NBC, by imposing a fine on channels. How do you quantify that damage? The image damage alone on NBC for doing that is impossible for you to begin to explain to them. You can avoid all of that completely. That doesn't mean that when they break a law, you then said, no, we don't want our image to be damaged. No. When they break the law and it's clear they have broken the law, then you simply said, sorry, you can't begin to operate at this point because you have broken the law.
And perhaps this is part of why the Nigerian people in a number of quarters continue to insist that the media is gagged. How do you think every media person who hears that tends to have the smile that you have on your face or the reaction that you've just given?
Because I know that the media here is not gagged. I think where you see the hesitancies that you probably are referring to, they are self-orchestrated. Sometimes from experience, you begin to address issues differently. The older you are on this job, and even in age, the more you are refining your ways of dealing with those. Now you know more people. Now you know more things. Now you want to change the world. Every journalist that I know wants to change the world. It doesn't end. We want to change the world. We want to change this country. We actually believe that our democracies will be imperiled if you don't have the media functioning properly.
Right.
So if we're going to get all of that, avoid impairing our democracy and improve our performance as journalists, we have to begin to do things differently. Madness, someone said, you know the definition, is if you continue to do the same thing all over and expecting a different result. We have done all this time. It hasn't worked. Neither from the government side or from the media side. So why don't we try something more civilized? Everywhere in the world, whether in America, North America, whether in Europe and Australasia, they have ombudsmen. They operate sometimes similarly, but sometimes people do things differently, but they're there.
Right.
It's not everybody that takes their complaint to them. Some people are so aggrieved, they said, I'm going to deal with these people. The Media Commission is not likely to allow you the opportunity immediately to deal with them while you are angry. You will deal with them, but it may take a bit of time, by which time your anger is simmered.
So let me ask you quickly, if I am a listener or a viewer and I have a complaint, or I'm a reader, I have a complaint, how do I reach out to the Ombudsman? You
simply write to the Ombudsman. The office is domiciled in the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria office, which is here in Lagos, and send a direct complaint addressed to the commission, and it will be taken care of. And if you don't want it made public and you said, I'm just giving you a tip about X, Y, Z, also do the same. Because that's the way we can help our profession. But we're not a court. We're not an organization of policemen. There are no policemen in journalism. And we're not going to arrest anybody. But we're going to ensure that you behave well. At least we will attempt to do it, and I know how difficult it is to get journalists to behave well. Journalists are the most unruly people that I've had to deal with, because everybody is self-assured. Everybody believes that he has the strength and the power to change the world. And so our profession is such a great profession that you can't allow it to flounder. It can only get better. And if it gets better, this country, just finally, because I know you're going to round up, I used to say to them, why do you think that every time somebody comes from outside, take Africa, any other African country, and shows up in Nigeria, he said they can't understand the Nigerian press. They are reporting stories that no official of any other African country will expect in any media in his country, whether privately owned or publicly owned. Even in some public media houses, They do stories that are not totally acceptable to the government. But it's only in Nigeria. And that's because you have, somebody says 350 or more language groups. What they don't understand is that each of those groups seek expression. That's what has helped us to have a flourishing media. That's why we're going to have more and more and more and more. That's why people are going to continue to be outspoken. If you check, you see outspoken people coming from everywhere. Why are these people not giving us a right opportunity? Now it's going even into demographics. You now have young people. Young people are beyond tribe. They're beyond religion. They don't. The only tribe they know are the tribes that went to school with them, tribes where they live. So that is their tribe, but they don't know the whole tribe. And their religion is not the religion of going to the mosque or going to the church. Their religion is, what do we believe together? What do we accept? And some of the brick walls were erected in the past. The younger generation, these demographic changes is breaking them down. And then you come to gender, then you come to rural dwellers, then you come to, there are just too many areas that we need to give vent for people to express their own views, their own opinions, and complain even when they want to. That's what makes the media. And that's what we think the commission should seek to expand. That people will always come and ask to have their say. They may not have their way, but there must always be an opportunity for Nigerians and those who reside in this country. What they cannot do in their own countries, they should be able to come here and do it. And when they go by, I said, when I was in Nigeria, this was what I did, I saw. That's what makes for greatness. And look, this country is a great country. Bila, take it from me. You don't become a great country purely because you have money and we have money. But this is a great country in the sense that we have some of the best people that I have had to meet. And I think I've gone around. Yeah?
Right. Well, there you have it from the lips of the National Chairman, Mr. Emeka Izeze of the National Media Complaints Commission, a commission that has essentially taken on the task of repairing the image of professionalism in the media, an arbiter, a court of first instance, if you like, a place of fair hearing. And we will wait to see what this does to the media landscape here in our dear country. And you've been listening to Radio Now 95.3 FM.